help our younger people in particular be far more accepting and tolerant of other people's ways of life. And even in the house, if we could reduce argument by, say, and pick a figure, 5%, 10%, it would be a global change, just global.
What if true success boiled down to resilience and human connection? In this episode, I sit down with Chris Smith, a leadership expert and former airline captain who has dedicated his career to transforming workplace culture and mental health. Chris has spent years helping organisations shift from high-pressure environments to thriving cultures where people feel valued, supported, and truly engaged. We explore why resilience is the key to navigating uncertainty, how human connection impacts leadership, and the small shifts that can create lasting success in both life and business. Welcome to Move Your Mind, where we uncover why you are holding yourself back from getting the life you want and what to do about it. With the help from high-achieving guests and experts in behavioural science, personal development, and the health and wellness space. Join us if you're ready to move out of your own way toward your ideal self. I'm your host, Nick Brax, and I've been working in the health and wellness space for the last 15 years, helping people find direction and gain the courage to take control of their life. My mission is simple: to help you learn everything that I wish I knew so you can become your ideal self. Lacking guidance, I spent the majority of my youth feeling lost and disempowered, which led to depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, and substance abuse. Looking back, I didn't have the vocabulary to communicate what I was experiencing. And as a man, I didn't resonate with the emotional language used in traditional therapy. I didn't need to talk about my feelings. I needed tangible solutions to guide me toward building a life I was proud of. If you can relate, then this podcast is for you. In this episode, we discuss how resilience and human connection drive success. If you're ready to take action and build a stronger mindset, then keep listening. Chris, so great to meet you, mate. Really appreciate you making the time to come on the podcast.
No, it's an absolute pleasure, Nick. It really is. Thank you.
And, I always, my favourite thing about this is meeting new people, being able to learn and everything. And, as always, we're sort of chatting. We probably could have kept chatting for another 20 minutes just as with the preamble before we started recording. So lots to talk about here. But yeah, for sure, mate. But I might just jump straight in. Are you able to, just so our listeners can learn a bit about your background, the work you're doing, can you just give a bit of a background on yourself and what you're currently doing?
Yes. Well, this is a boy from Toowoomba, just outside of Brisbane here. Grew up there, and I always wanted to go flying. But to be honest with you, I had an upbringing of, building business with my parents. So it was either that or this, and I started doing architecture when I left school. Within 6 months, I knew that wasn't the right path, and but they were so wonderful, to be honest with you, and that propelled me to actually follow my dream. And here I am at the other end of it, thinking I'm just so happy I backed myself there, because you don't know what's coming, Nick, and that's what I love about life, because if you knew what was coming, you'd just be living a script. So to not know is a wonderful thing. Some fantastic experiences in there, great and difficult as well. And then I, later in my career, I moved into the mental health field because I loved mixing with people. I love the act of flight as well, but also the liaison with people was something that really got such a sense of satisfaction out of that and assisting people. So I'd always had that bent, but about 15 years ago, I moved into in fact, I proposed a job to my CEO, and they went with it, that we needed to do something about the welfare for aviation people, pilots in particular. And they went with it. And I went back to university and did some study, and so we set up peer support programs around Australia, New Zealand, heavily in Japan and Singapore. I'm probably a little bit better known in Japan than I am in Australia for that. And it's been life-changing. So now I've actually finished my flying days, but I've just progressed into this other area that I love as well. So life continues, it really does. And, Nick, I'm a big David Attenborough fan, because that guy has just lived his life for a purpose the whole way. and he still does, and it's for a great purpose. There's no such thing as retirement. He's a humble person, and to me, he lives a really purposeful, beautiful life, and so I want to continue to do that all the way.
Yeah, mate, I love that. I love like it's inspiring the stuff, the way you're talking there. And I think a lot of the time society tells us that, you have to know what you want to do early on, and then you have to stick to that and do this and do that. And that doesn't, that's not how it works. Like you're saying, you don't know what's to come. We all change. What we want to do at one point, it might evolve into something else, like you're saying, from the aviation to mental health and these different areas. But I think that's such a good point that, what we shouldn't be looking at life in that way of that we just hit a point and we retire. It's keep learning, keep growing. Attenborough's like almost 100 and he's still making documentaries. It's insane. And he loves what he's doing. That's probably what's keeping him alive, because he's so passionate.
That's true, and I think the world has taken moral ownership of David Attenborough because of what he does, and we all like to think he's a part of us, don't we?
Yeah.
And he's such a humble person. He really is. He's not up there grandstanding. He's doing it for a reason. He's got a purpose in life, and he's such a lovely man to go with this. So,
Yeah.
yes, I think, and the more we grow in life and the more we get exposed to, the better able we are to handle those unexpected big issues that come our way.
Yeah.
But for me, it was also a matter of learning what made me tick, really, and then being true to myself, and we have to really trust that little voice inside, I think. When I'm talking with younger people now who want to move into, say, leadership roles or whatever, so that's fine, but just try to find out why you want to do a certain role. Why do you want to be CEO? What is it? And be truthful with yourself. Do I want power? Be honest. Do I want money, or do I want to make the world a better place? What actually is it? Because if you don't know that, you don't have to think about it. You might get to that point and think, well, it wasn't what I expected anyway. I didn't.
Yeah.
I don't feel fulfilled.
Yeah, exactly. And then and I think that's the thing, isn't it? If you don't have that meaning behind it, it's going to be hard to stick through it when times get tough. If there's that bigger purpose and meaning, you'll be able to ride the waves. And, like you're saying, life's inevitably going to have ups and downs and unexpected things happen. So if we have that deeper meaning for why we're doing something, then we can, we'll be able to work through all of that. But if we don't, it can be pretty tough.
Absolutely. And when I work with organisations, I apply the same sort of thought process now, Nick, as well. I think we're seeing the decline. In fact, I'm sure we are seeing the decline of the purely commercially oriented management leadership of organisations now. People are wanting more. Certainly, the pandemic did that, but it's more than that. I think people are now looking for to answer that question: what's in it for me as well? Too much inequality in certain areas, and they really want. They're starting to recognise what makes them happy and truly happy, and so work with those leaders. I often recommend you don't worry about engagement programs. Don't do them because they generally don't work. We need to get the human element right here. You've got software, hardware, and human beings. If we don't get that right, you're never going to truly engage with people, and you're not going to build. If you're looking to build an iconic company, it won't happen. It won't happen because the share price and profits alone don't do that. That's just good commercial. We've got to look at the human element in our homes, in society in general, and in our companies as well.
And you touched on there, but how good of a job do you think companies in general are doing with that human side? I know there's been a bigger push. I've done some work in companies, but it seems like there's a long way to go in a lot of organisations to change it.
Oh, absolutely, a long, long way to go, Nick. I don't find when I work with execs like that there is intent is anything other than to look after their staff. But in truth, I don't think they know how.
Yeah.
And in many ways, it's a little bit much to expect that they know everything about that, because generally boards and executives are appointed on the basis of their ability to make money, really, And I get that, but we need a lot more emotional intelligence sitting in there, and how to apply that practically, and a lot of people in the second tier, if you like, the HR areas, we need to help them too. So the programs that I work on and with actually start developing. I talk about the culture from below, and we start from below and work up. And so the culture doesn't always start at the top, the way I see it. So
Yeah.
we worked through the initial peer support programs, and then I worked out. Hang on, that's not enough. We can do a whole lot more and infuse a really good culture from the bottom up in the management ranks.
That's an interesting way to look at it, because really, at the end of the day, it's like a microcosm of society in a company, and you've got this culture that often's been, over any number of years, bred into that company, and it's very hard to change that. And if it is just trying to be sort of from the top down, it's not going to spread enough. You need to actually really teach each individual how to do that. But it's no easy job. You're looking to make a change, to lose weight, to get toned, to gain self-confidence, all in just 24 minutes a day, then go no further. You can check out the Move Your Mind community by going to nickbrax.start.page.
That's true. And often, Nick, like promotes like, because that's all they know. So we're in our leadership sphere, we tend to promote someone who will get on with us, But there has to be a degree of acceptability by the staff, by the masses. If you're really going to do something, they've got to consider that, that the staff group, they don't want more of the same. And I've worked in numerous companies now where the staff will be waiting for a change, with a new manager or something, and it doesn't happen. It's just a perpetuation of the same.
Yeah.
So that's why I write in my book. It's really quite different, really. I favour a far more egalitarian structure, a flatter stance, flatter organisational chart, and for a number of reasons that I talk about there. So you're quite right. So that program that we started within one of the airlines here, I'll tell you just a 1 minute rundown on it if you like, Nick. But basically, I worked out after a while that all the great stuff that we're learning in our peer support training shouldn't be just for us. What's going on here? We're learning all this really great stuff about how to interact with people and relationships and how to get the best out of people and look after them. This should be for everybody. So instead of the 6 monthly meetings where we held maybe 18 to 20 people, peer supporters, I opened up everybody in the Qantas group. Opened up everybody. And then I got the CEO along and heads of departments, no status in the room at all, none. And then we started talking about the issues that cause a degradation in mental health and morale every day, and that produce anxiety and depression and so forth, but not just focus on those issues. And they were things that like exaggeration, which can be harmless or it can be downright deceitful and damaging. And all this, and resilience and tolerance differences, all sorts of issues we talk about, and people just start opening up with their views. And what I'm really looking for is people to see themselves in there, and maybe recognise themselves partially or fully. Maybe I'm contributing here, And so those peer support members, then they gain that knowledge and that insight and take it up with them in the managerial ranks. So that's the basic principle behind it.
That makes a lot of sense. Is it hard doing that when it is having to get through to so many individuals on a resource level? Is that a difficult thing to do?
Well, initially we made it voluntary, and we've moved. Honestly, Nick, we moved from 18 to 20 people at a standard meeting, if you like, and then we get 100. They were a voluntary basis, so people would come along. The other 80 or so would be in their lunchtime or something, they'd come along, or on their day off.
Yeah.
In terms of, there was such interest in it, and yes, the resourcing from a company's point of view, I really respect that. But my view, very strong view, is that if we don't worry about engagement programs that don't tend to work anyway, money and prizes don't tend to work, and build in the culture correctly this way, you're going to save a lot of money and make a lot of money. It's way better to do it that way.
Yeah.
And then it's permanent. You have permanence sitting in here. So you ask a really great question, because the other recommendation I make is when companies set something like this up, anyone who's not not of a mind to actually be amongst this stuff, then they definitely have to go.
Yeah.
They definitely have to go because they're the ones who we need to get hold of.
Yeah.
And even if they're not a great follower, any change is a massive difference. Massive difference. And so if you've had, say, a manager or a leader who hasn't had a reputation for, being very personable, if the staff see that person as even trying, they think, wow, Chris he's trying to do this, having a go here. It's like going to a foreign country, not being very good at their language and trying. The locals tend to really appreciate that. At least they're having a go. So the upside is huge and there is no downside.
Yeah, exactly. No one's going to knock you for having a go and trying to make those changes. And I think it's until it's like there's a lot of band-aid solutions, and I think the same with the government. There's a lot of awareness and a lot of money going into certain things, but not to enough of a degree, not enough preventative. And I think until it's that experiential thing of an organization seeing the change that can come out of it, seeing how it is actually even going to improve the bottom line when you make those changes, then it really sinks in. But it's very hard to get the message through before hard to cut through to them to really make change, because no one likes change. We like to stay in the processes that have been there forever.
That's right. It takes some courage.
Yeah.
It takes some courage. But, we're seeing a couple of very high-profile organisational events, I guess, if you like, in this country and in the US as well, where people have quietly had enough. They've had enough, and they're not responding anymore to the executives. They're saying, "Hang on a second, we're willing to pay you a lot of money, for example. Yep, but hang on, that is really excessive. That means it's more about you than it is about us. Hang on a second. So to me, the question for a lot of execs, if you like, if we're talking in that area at the moment, is, okay, if we just figuratively speaking, if we pay you $5 million for this year, this package, instead of 10 million, whatever it may be, will you make lesser quality decisions? And if the answer to that is yes, then I don't think you're a fit for our organisation, because 5 million is a lot of money anyway, So if you're wanting more and more and more to make your better decisions, that doesn't even make sense.
Yeah.
Not to me.
Absolutely. And you were saying before, in aviation, pilots were sort of highest up on the need for mental health support. Is that what you were mentioning earlier?
Yes, I was very fortunate to have held a lot of very good roles. Especially in the examining role, so examining pilots for about 20 years. And I really, there's a lot of pressure in that role. And but I found that if in the assessment process, people were being pressured just too much. Now, if you do it too much, then it stops being a standards test and becomes a pressure test. Now, the counter argument often comes back, yes, but you're going to get the pressure airborne if you have an emergency. That's a different pressure. Here, the pressure is 2 goes and you lose your job, and then my family suffers, and the kids are out of school, all those sorts of things. That's the pressure that really applies. And I thought, this is wrong. So we really need to create the environment where they are able to perform at their best. So we got amongst the peer support work. The company I was working with at the time, which was Jetstar Airways, was setting up companies in Vietnam and Singapore and Japan. And I had the fortunate background, I guess, from my parents to say to extract as much out of life as possible. So I put my hand up to do those, help those start those up. Well, life changed. I met, for example, the Japanese people, and really befriended them very, very strongly, and we found we had similar interests. Now, the mental health scene in Asian countries is not really spoken about overtly, but boy, did they want it. So through a series of connections, I met a wonderful psychologist who's a wonderful friend of ours now in Japan, called Keiko Nakahama. So we worked together, became friends. We said, okay, we're going to try and set up a program in Japan, first time. And it's just one of the highlights of my life that we actually did it. I think it took some years. It really did. But honestly, we found, and I said to the CEO at the time, this could take a couple of years to get teeth, to get going. Well, I was wrong. Here it took off.
Wow.
So, yeah, the people, particularly sort of sub 40, 45, didn't want to lose their culture, but they wanted to also grasp what we do, speak a little bit more open about things. And this was an avenue for them. And away it went. So we've got that Peersport network right around the network now, if you like. It was very interesting, Nick, that on pre-pandemic, we would probably get about 5 approaches for assistance per week. People are in all sorts of different positions, in life. But then the pandemic came, and that went to about 200. So the managers were very wise, because they soon picked up that all the staff didn't really want to hear everything from management. They wanted to hear from their own kind. So they empowered us to actually transmit information, feedback information through the Peersport network. In the first 3 weeks, I think we did about 800 in and outbound calls.
Oh my God.
And it was really great here and in Japan and other places. So, the pilots, it's really very interesting too that even if they haven't used our Peersport network themselves, they've taken moral ownership of it. And when things were tough through the pandemic and companies were cutting all sorts of things to survive, they were saying, don't you touch that Peersport network and don't do that. They have moral ownership of it. So there's people power right there, isn't it?
Massively.
They're telling everyone what they want. Yeah, that's fine. Don't touch that.
Are you interested in joining a community of like-minded people who are on the same journey as you are? Even though you're the one that needs to do the work, you don't have to go it alone. You can find all of the information at nickbrax.start.page. Yeah, well, mate, it's inspiring, the work you're doing, and we need more people like you out there. We really do, because this stuff changes lives and, changes cultures. So it's, super important. We're talking, before we started recording, we're talking about the topic of, polarization, arguing, that side of things in society in general. Super interested to, talk to you about that and get your view on it.
Yes. Yeah. When we have those big open forum meetings, CEO, everybody, new hire, doesn't matter who it is, I posed some questions to them. And one question I asked was, what in your view is the world's biggest problem today? And when you answer it, please take note, or when somebody else answers, I'm not that interested in your own answer. I want you to take note of your emotional response to someone else's view. So, because if someone else is affecting you, that tells you more about you than them. It doesn't mean you're wrong. It could be a difficult person, but it means you've reached the end of your limit, if you like, with that person, that issue, or maybe I just can't cope myself, better hand over to someone else. So, but all the views were terribly interesting, really, because, and I said to them, if I said to you, well, the world's biggest problem for me is the dog barking next door, it's not exactly climate change, but does that devalue me in your eyes? Could you really work with me in our organisation on a serious issue? Can you fly with me in the flight deck and have faith in me? So it tells more about the receiver than me. Maybe I'm fantastic in those circumstances, but at the moment the dog is bothering me. So, and of course we've got all sorts of answers. Climate change. The biggest one was social media, actually. Interestingly enough,
it's a huge one. Yeah.
For me, and then people ask me what I think. And Nick, I've thought about it long and hard for a very long time. And to me, it is the biggest problem for me in the world now is the damaging, useless argument that goes on for no real reason, no good reason, in our homes, in our organisations, at schools, and globally. Look at the silliness that's going on and the catastrophes that are going around the world now.
Yeah.
To me, it's argument. So, and I think people are being brought up to argue in too often. So we need to learn, I think, both young people and right throughout, how to be far more accepting of someone else's right to their view. You don't have to agree with their view, but I call it the paradox. That the moment you accept someone else's right to their view, then that's the moment that they may turn around and think, oh, okay, well, we disagree, but I think I can talk with Chris now. Maybe we can reach a solution. And that's what a lot of the really big negotiators are doing around the world, Nick, now. They know they can't solve the problems in the Middle East or wherever. They're trying to keep a lid on things by accepting someone else's view. It may be abhorrent to us, but we're trying to get a result.
Yeah.
And I think we really need to help our younger people in particular be far more accepting and tolerant of other people's ways of life, and even in the house, So, to me, I just think about that. If we could reduce argument by, say, and pick a figure, 5%, 10%, it would be a global change, just global. And I like to be very inclusive about it. Nick, my mother passed away last year at 99 years of age.
Wow.
Wonderful, wonderful woman. She went flat out to the end, and that's what Chris wants to do.
Yeah.
But I think of her at almost 100, and someone whether you're 99 or 9, I don't talk generational difference much anymore. I don't talk generation much anymore because we talk a lot about it. We tend to instill some differences all the time, like, oh yeah, they're really different, but hang on a second. I talk era. So she at 99 had the same right to a view as a 9-year-old and a lot of experience. Let's just all do this together. You know what? I really reckon this is our era. This is our chance. I think in this one era, we can actually do a lot of good here. We can change things.
Yeah.
Even that percentage of a reduction in argument and increasing of understanding can be world changing. I think it's my view.
I agree. And, it's like there's obviously, like you're saying, it's coming from a lot of pain, frustration, people trying to get rid of their frustrations by advocating for whatever it is that they're frustrated about. But at the end of the day, we're all at the core pretty similar. We all just want to be heard. We all want, the best outcome, and we might have different views on how to get that. But I think it would change the whole world. If that on a broad level can change, I think it would be dramatic what would happen. It really would.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's my view too. And I think I've had a fortunate life. There's been a lot of difficulty in amongst things, with companies going broke and all stuff, but nothing by comparison to what other people go through around the world. A third of the world are just trying to feed themselves tomorrow, Nick. That's what it is. That's the truth. I guess my upbringing, I was very fortunate because one of the strongest memories I have as a small boy, number 4 of 4 boys, was sitting around the dinner table thinking anything was possible, and what a great memory that is. And my father came from nothing and he built his business and all sorts of things, but they really pushed us. On the flip side of that, I did actually see a lot of argument as well, Nick. And a lot of it was alcohol fueled at times. And as an 8-year-old boy, it's quite scary. It really is. So it could be that really coloured me to think this is just wrong.
Yeah.
This is just wrong. Argument, it's just wrong. So, and I think we're very strong influences young people, and I think that probably coloured me a fair bit.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, mate. And I think, all such important points you're raising here. So interested to, just before I go into these closing questions, can you tell me about your book? I'd love to learn about that, and then we'll tell our listeners where they can get it.
Yes. I wrote the book. It's been out about 6 months now, I guess. I basically wrote it for my kids first. I really did because, and it says that in the book, because often we as parents, start to realise, hang on a second, there's more than just dad or mum or whoever, and so sometimes you think, well, I'd like to tell you my views. You don't have to accept them, but this is my experience, my views. There's so much more to my time on earth, and I'd like to write it down, and really that was the primary driver, Nick, for doing it. And I took about 8 months off work a couple of years ago, but now here's my time. I really, I had a bit of a rough time then too, so it was really cathartic for me to start writing. And it's a leadership book, but it's an autobiographical leadership book. My story, in and out of the aircraft, some scary experiences that I've had, and again, not all in the airplane either. Probably the worst was in Vietnam when I got locked up for a few days in Vietnam.
Wow.
That was that I got closest I've come to a panic attack right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it was really about that and how I genuinely feel that people should be treated. It's a message, I think, if you like, from staff to leaders, how to be a leader from my point of view, how to build that genuine, lasting respect. And I guess one of the fundamental tenets behind it, Nick, is, well, how do you want to be seen at the end of the day? When you retire, you're older. Do you want the respect of the masses, or do you want just the respect of the few around you? Really, what do you want to do? Think about that. So it's how I feel people should be treated.
That's great. And well, yeah, I think, again, such an important message, mate. Where can people go if they want to find out more information about you, purchase your book? Where can we send them?
Yes, I've got a website, which is culturalleadership.com.
Yep.
On LinkedIn and Facebook. Love to connect with anybody. And the book is through Amazon and all the good bookshops, which is lovely to see. And I'd love to hear from anyone at all, for certain. And book 2's underway, and I'm just loving the writing, to be honest. Loving the writing.
It's definitely not an easy process. It takes a lot of time, a lot of banging your head up against the wall, a lot of revisions, but such a satisfying thing as well.
Nick, I learned that I was not a captain anymore. I spent 30-something years in command, and then you do something totally different. You think, hang on a second, I've got a lot to learn here.
Oh God, yeah.
It's very good for you,
Good for the ego. Yeah. A lot goes into it.
It keeps you grounded, doesn't it?
Exactly, it really does. But anyone listening, go to the show notes. There'll be links to the book and website, everything else. So make sure to check it out. And Chris, I'm just going to finish up here we finish every episode with 5 closing questions. The first one being, what's your best childhood memory that comes to mind for you? Hey guys, if you're enjoying this podcast, please click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram at Nick Brax. I really appreciate your ongoing support.
Oh, that is so great, and so many, I would say that one where sitting around the dining room table, that's a good one.
That's a great one.
That's a good one. Anything was possible. 3 older brothers, my mum and my dad, and that is your whole world right there, isn't it? You've got their small business going, and the small business was like News Corp to you because that's what it is,
Yeah.
And I made lots of really wonderful friends, right back as a child with primary school friends. I've got good memories in here. I really do. So I'd have to say it was probably my upbringing, really, and the Aussie upbringing of going to the beach and on your surfboard and things like that. It's pretty good.
I think it's the best country in the world to grow up in. Pretty lucky in Australia.
Yes.
What do you think's currently the biggest burden on mental health in society?
That is there's too much automatic pressure on people, Nick. There's too much that I write about it. A couple of people, there are 7 characters in that book. One is Oscar, the other one's Juliet, and people are having to tolerate it. They get resilience and tolerance mixed up. You can't build up resilience endlessly. Pressure up, resilience up, pressure up, resilience up, and then pressure up, no more resilience. No more. And then it collapses.
Yeah.
And it collapses. And so it's not endless. So we need to take a good hard look at everything that affects that, whether it's our nurse to patient ratios, to school teachers. We really need to look at all this stuff because it all has an effect on us, and all of it, the cost of living, all those sorts of things. But it's the environmental stuff, Nick, I think that is just, it's pervasive. It sits there and grows and grows and grows. But we need to have a gentler society here. And whatever we do, we stop trying to build a business that is society and build a society. That's what I think.
Yeah, because it's not as you said it earlier, I think it's not a business. We're dealing with humans, You can't run a society like a company. It's it's a bit different.
Yeah.
What would you say is your personal definition of happiness?
It would be freedom, freedom to be yourself, to take the mask off. And we all wear a mask somewhere, Nick, at work or wherever it may be, because we're fitting into a mold all the time. And it is, I found what made me tick, and to do more of what makes you tick. And for me, that's being with people, enjoying people, helping them as best I can, having good friends around, those sorts of things. That makes me very happy. It really does. I know we've got to play the game.
Yeah.
In life, we get that. So we have to bend, but we don't have to break. So when you can actually be yourself, take the mask off and be yourself in whatever area you're doing and fulfill those things that make you genuinely happy. Doesn't matter what it is. That's genuine happiness.
I love that. If you could give one piece of advice to your 18-year-old self, what would that be?
Always give yourself the opportunity for the unexpected to occur, because it always does.
That's great.
Always do that. I learned that later in life. You don't know what's coming, but learn to relish that. And often people live a life, and they don't try anything. If you try something, the unexpected will come in. It happened for me. Now I've got some of my best friends are in Japan. I didn't know any till 2012, and now I've got the closest friends in Japan.
Yeah.
So put yourself out there, have a go, see what comes, because it always comes. It always comes.
And then you can flip. A lot of people are terrified about uncertainty and change and all that sort of thing, but you can flip it, like you're saying, and turn it into the best part of life, and then it means you can really cope with it. We can't control it, we've got to ride the waves. So I think that's really good advice there.
Absolutely.
So final one here, what are you most proud of?
It has to be your family. There's no question about it. Truly. Everyone's healthy and happy. Everyone has their own troubles, and we do too. And we've got the 3 little granddaughters now. How can it not be that? Honestly and truly. And when I will tell you, Nick, that when I finished flying last September, I missed the flying, but I missed the people. But I had so many people just say to me, "Thanks for always having our back," And they were the younger people, like the 20, 23. And I think hopefully I've achieved it. I always wanted to have more of the respect of the masses rather than just be so status oriented, really.
Yeah.
And I think I'm proud of that, to be honest with you.
Well, it's a big one, mate. So I really appreciate you making the time. Love the work you're doing, and I think it's super inspiring. I've learned a lot chatting to you today, and you've inspired me to sort of embrace, the opportunities and uncertainty of life more, and yeah, love what you're doing. So thank you again, mate, for making the time.
That's an absolute pleasure, Nick. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris Smith, for joining me today and offering your insights. And thank you for listening. I'd love to hear your thoughts on the episode and any suggestions for topics you'd like to hear about. Feel free to leave a comment or just send a DM. Your feedback's always appreciated. Please don't forget to click the subscribe button, leave a like or comment, share with your friends, and follow me on Instagram. It really makes a difference. Thank you so much.